Hi, Flavio here. You have seen the video regarding the ultimate source of pain, and in that video I talked about these two destinies that we have. In a sense, we have this true destiny, which we actually choose before we're born, and then we have this other adopted destiny, which we learn from the outside in once we learn to respond to the world. And if you listen to the previous video, you're going to see exactly I explained that to you. But somebody asked me an interesting question because in that video I allude to an experience that came to me that came to my mind that I remembered when I was working out these ideas, and somebody asked me to explain that again. So what happened was I was 14 years of age. I actually retrieved some of these details, and I was competing. I was a cyclist. I competed until I was 23, basically last year, and this particular race was one race. It was the final race out of a 4-race championship. It was a special championship over the summer that somebody had put together. It was a special trophy thing, and it was a very special event. And it just so happened that I won the first race, which was an awesome nighttime race. I love the nighttime racing. It's a whole different experience. And then you had the second and third race. I won both of those. And of course, I was the favorite to win the fourth one. And everybody knew that cycling is a very intellectual sport. There's a lot of strategy there. So everybody knew my riding style, my techniques, and I knew their techniques. And there's a lot of mental competition that goes into this prior to actually hitting the bicycle, starting the actual race. I mean, you know who's competing and what people do and so forth, So anyway, make a long story short, we start off the race. And so as you know, in cycling, the whole big deal about cycling is to save energy, and most of your energy goes into opening up the wind as you're coming through. So you want to be drafting. The term they use is drafting. You want to be really close to the guy in front of you so that he is actually opening the wind for you, and you're kind of like in a little vacuum zone there. And this way you save some energy so that when you have to do your final sprint, you can hopefully prevail over your opponent, right? I mean, that's in a nutshell the basic strategy behind it. And then there's a whole bunch of things that you got to be looking out for with breakaways from the peloton and all this. But anyway, I was in the peloton and I'm watching. We're early on in the race and there's a curve over to the left over here, and I see a guy over there breaking away. And of course, a breakaway is dangerous because if you stay in the peloton and this guy takes off and we cannot catch him again, of course he's going to win, right? He's going to be in the front. So you have to gauge whether that guy has the ability to break away from the peloton and ride on his own, opening the wind on his own, which takes more energy than riding in a group. So because in a group you take turns, whoever's in front takes turns, so overall you save energy. So the guy may be able to break away or not. Sometimes they do a breakaway attempt and they fail. They come back to the peloton. We catch up with them. Other times they actually take off. The peloton cannot catch up with them. They win without even a competition at the end, without even a final sprint. So when I saw the rider take off, I gauged, it's a split-second thing, in the experience, and you're immersed in that thing, gauging from the way he took off. I thought he was a strong rider and that he was going to make it. It was about a 30-kilometer race. It was a very short race. So I went after him. And it's not as easy because, I was on the left side of the peloton. I was on the right side. He was on the left. And I had to cross a few riders over to get to him. And by the time I cleared 2 or 3 riders over here on my left, he was already a little distance away. I had to catch up with him, which took, of course, a lot of energy. So when I caught up to him, my first task, of course, is to hang on to his rear wheel and recover, right? I'm like out of breath, basically. I'm panting. So you tuck yourself into the handlebar and you just watch the rear wheel and you basically recover it takes about 2 minutes or so. And so that you can begin taking turns and hopefully prevail over the peloton. And then the race is really just between him and I at the end of the 30 kilometers. That was my idea. But as I'm looking down there, right, just watching, the only thing I can see is his rear wheel and my front wheel, and they're basically touching. And I can see the asphalt underneath the point of contact between the two wheels. And I noticed that the texture and color of the asphalt is suddenly different. And so I look up. And I'll never forget it. By now, he's over here on my left. I'll never forget it. The peloton is way over there, way, way over there. That man was not a legitimate racer. That man was, in Brazil they called it a rabbit, a decoy. He was placed there to pull me out of the race. They knew that I would respond this way. You see, people know how you're going to respond, and they do things knowing what you're going to do. If they do this, you do that, they kind of know that. And that's how this man acted. You know, he was placed in the race to pull me out. I was the favorite. They wanted to take me out of the race. So when I see that, I see the peloton over here and I see where I am, you know, the rules, I cannot just jump across the curb over here and join the peloton. I have to go back to where I left the track. Otherwise, it looks like I'm skipping the track, you know. So I have to go back and then catch up with the peloton. And it's a split-second thing because that's where I felt the pain. You see, I remember watching the back of the peloton riding away from me. And at that point, when I realized what's going on, I stopped pedaling. You see, we stop trying when we think it's all lost. We stop trying when we think it's all over. That's why I exist in your life, because that's not going to happen to you. Watch what happened to me. I'm seeing those guys ride away from me over there. That's the peloton. That's where I got to be. And I got to be in front of all those guys to win. But I stopped pedaling over here. This guy took me off the race. And the pain of not only losing, because you get used to losing. When you practice sports, competitive sports, you get used to losing. There's pain in losing, but you get used to it. You can handle that. But the pain of being taken out of the race, particularly what I felt was an unjust way of taking me out, it wasn't a clean win. The pain was horrible. I was not in my destiny. I was not on the path that I came there to be on. I was on a different path. And I was pulled off my path by a person whose job it was to pull me off my path. You know? And there's a profound pain, and you see that trophy slipping right out of your fingers. That trophy was mine. At least that's how every racer should think, I suppose, before you start the race. Otherwise, why start it, right? That trophy was mine. And I was going to be on the podium. And I was going to lift that trophy up, and I was going to thank my coach because I won all 4 races and I won the championship. And I see those guys riding away, and the pain is unbearable. And I don't know what happened. I guess there's Thomas Paine, is this American philosopher who would write these inspirational messages to soldiers during the Civil War. And he would say, these are the times that try men's souls. And sports, competitive sports for the young man is important because it is at that moment that you discover what your soul is made out of. And for a split second, I felt, what? And I stopped pedaling. But it didn't take more than a fraction of a second for me to turn the bicycle around with everything I got. And I went back to the point I left the track. And I knew what I had to do. I had to put my head down and catch up to the peloton. And I'll tell you what happened. The pain was gone. Oh, everything else hurt. Like my coach would say, at moments like this, even your great-grandmother's kidneys hurt. You know, he would say, like, because at that moment you're going beyond what your body can do. Because the adrenaline's pumping, you're upset, you're, you know, I mean, everything is going on. Of course your body's hurting. I mean, this is brutal. This is a race. This is the final race in the championship, you know. But that existential pain of seeing that I'm on the wrong path, that was gone. Now all I have to do is catch up to where I have to be. You see, because now I know my destiny is. My destiny is to be in front of the peloton and win that race. And not pay attention to what this guy did. Because there will be people on your life, on your path, whose job it is to pull you off your track. That will happen. That happened to me when I was 14 and a few other times. The temptation that you're going to have is to resent the person and to stay there saying, why did you do this to me? Don't waste your energy. Pick up the bicycle. You see, at that instant, time stops. And I had to assess my entire situation. I knew that I was healthy, I was well-trained, I was in shape, I had a good coach, a good bicycle, my bicycle was working. I mean, I had everything going, you know, and all I had to do is to turn that thing around and get back on the road and catch up with that peloton. And that's what I want to help you do with your life. Because this story, which came back to me recently, like, you know, doing this exercises and these meditations, that story came back to me so vividly. It's like I'm still on the bicycle. It was a lime green bicycle, and I still remember it. And I'm telling you something, you know, I wish that was the end of the story, but it wasn't. I pedaled that thing like those pedals were falling off, you know, and and I caught up to the back of the peloton. And then I had a long recovery. I was way overexerted by now. And I still had probably a good 20 kilometers to go. It was a 30-kilometer race, you know. I still had a good while to go and to keep up with those guys. And not only keep up, you know, by now the peloton has already thinned out a little. I got to get to the front of the peloton. A bunch of people there, you know, they block you, whatever, you know. But I know I have to recover, you know, and I have a good coach. See, my coach is on the sidelines. He moved on already to the other world, and I know he's still coaching me. My coach was on the sideline. This was a criterium race, like a circuit, like you're going around. And so we have this communication. This was way before like electronics and stuff, you know, so we have like hand signals, and he's telling me what to do through hand signals. And everybody I go by him, every time I go by him, I'm watching what the new instructions are, you know. So I know that I have to recover first, but I have to be drafting to rest. And then I have to make my way to the front and position myself for the final sprint and hopefully have enough energy left over to be able to sprint and have a shot at winning, even though I've overexerted myself. And, you know, but there's something about life, you know. I entered the race as the favorite, and that's why they did that to me. And this is what I want to tell you. You see, had I not been the favorite, they wouldn't have to send that decoy. Think about this carefully. The next time somebody sends a decoy your way to pull you off the race, remember they wouldn't have sent you that decoy had you not been the favorite. So you have a choice to make right now. Are you going to be thinking about the decoy, the one who came to pull you off the track? Or you're going to remember who you are and say, wait a second, I am the favorite to win. Otherwise, this would be not necessary. You see where sports are a metaphor for life, and how by competing and winning and losing, you know, you get in touch with your soul and you remember who you are. And at that moment in the back of the peloton, consciously or unconsciously, I cannot tell you, because I'm sweating and panting and everything is hurting, and you're worried about, you know, getting a flat tire on your bicycle. There's no time to switch tires at that point. You know, you're exhausted. You know, in other words, you know. But I know one thing. Something within me changed. I realized, why the heck did they send this guy over? I'm the favorite. I'm a good rider. I'm in shape. I have a good coach. My coach had a reputation. And so did I at that point. I won the 3 previous races. So I made my way to the front of the peloton, and then the last lap comes around. And as soon as I get up to sprint, you know, last lap, finish line is over there. As soon as I get up out of my seat to sprint, there's another mule in the race. There's another guy whose job was to take me out. And he tries to push me over the curb over here on the left. And you know, and I remember that moment really well. You know, we use this thing called self-hypnosis, and I went back to that moment recently. And I can see the bicycle, I can see the finish line over there. And I can see this guy approaching me from the left. He was wearing a white shirt. And I can see him approaching from the left. And I think that he's just positioning himself for the sprint. He's not. He's pushing me off the road. You know, there's a curb over here, and if my pedal hits, I fly. You know, and he's pushing me off. And that's another moment that tries men's souls. What are you made out of? Am I going to let this guy push me off the race now, at the end of all this, after, you know? So you don't want to hurt anybody, you don't want to play unfair or anything, but that's the time to lean in and put your shoulder into the race. He didn't crash, I didn't crash either, but I was able to prevail over him. He couldn't push me off, I pushed him off. And it was a close sprint. I wish I could tell you that I was way ahead of the pack and that I got out of my seat with my hands up. I wish I could have told you it was one of those finishes. It wasn't. It was a tough race. But by a very, very clear margin of a couple of bicycles, I came in ahead. And I got the trophy. And the only reason I'm telling you this story, because I could tell you about plenty of failures, but the only reason I'm telling you that story is because in your life, there will be decoys, there will be rabbits, there will be mules, there will be people whose job it is to get you off the race. But remember this, they only come into your life because you are the favorite. And if you forgot that, let me remind you that you are the favorite. And I'm here Just as my coach was hand signaling to me what to do and got me to win that race intelligently, fair and square, and cleanly. And everybody who was there saw that bicycle coming in ahead of the other bicycles. And everybody saw what had happened. But one bicycle came in front of all the other bicycles and everybody saw it. Because of my coach signaling to me, I want to be that coach for you. I want to remind you that there's plenty of time and opportunity for you to win your race. And there have been plenty of rabbits trying to take you off the race as well. And I know that. You don't have to tell me that. I know that. That's why I'm here telling you the story. But I'm going to be right there, whispering in your ears, doing hand signals, whatever it takes. And I'm going to help you win your race. Now remember something. There is magic in life. And we are just getting started. Thank you.